Welcome to our afternoon session about esports and Battle Royale. I'm Arne Peters, I'm with eSports.com, and I will moderate the two important guys here that will come on stage now. And that's Brandon Green with Bluehole.
Oh, thank you.
And,
thanks, guys.
And Ralph Reichert with Turtle Entertainment ESL.
Return the favor.
No, we start with quick introductions. I start with Brandon. Brandon, tell us who you are and how you're involved with PUBG.
So I made a mod on Arma about 5 years ago now, which got turned into what everyone kind of knows as PUBG today. Now I'm creative director at PUBG Corp.
Thank you. Ralph?
I'm founder and CEO of ESL. So I had the mediocre idea 20 years ago that this might be a sport in the future. I was extremely young when we started the company, so I thought that it's going to get very fast. It took much, much longer. On the other side, now we're here, and it's bigger than ever, and couldn't think of a more exciting industry to be in, really.
That's, I think, true for all of us here, and maybe also for some of the people in the audience. Let me start with a question, and raise your hand if you play Battle Royale and PUBG. Ooh.
That's good.
That's nice start. That's very good. Thank you. And this specifically this guy here.
Yes.
Now, Battle Royale is a very, recent addition to esports, and some people even say it's not an esport yet. Brandon, how do you see Battle Royale becoming an esports, and can you tell us a little bit about the history, about how you actually started thinking about esports when creating PUBG?
So I was playing DayZ Modern Arma 2. I had my own DayZ server, and I had seen an event called the Survivor Games, and it was based in the Hunger Games. It had a zone that was moved around, and it was kind of controlled by admins. But I didn't really like the setup because it was controlled by humans, basically, and they can be biased sometimes. And I thought, okay, there has to be a better way to do this. There has to be a way to make it random every time and make it so. And also, the Survivor Games was only for content creators. It wasn't for the mass public, and I wanted to play. And because Arma is a wonderful place, and you can mod these things, I was like, well, I can make this. So again, I wanted to make it different. I saw some things I thought I could do better, and created Battle Royale. Now, the original Battle Royale, DayZ Battle Royale mod in Arma 2 was more similar to Hunger Games in that they started in a barn, and there were satchels at the start, but that kind of we evolved that into the airplane or parachuting out of the sky just because it was a better way to get people running across the map. So that's where it kind of came from, and that's what kind of inspired me. But for an esport, I always thought, I'd seen how popular the Survivor Games were, and I always thought, listen, Battle Royale, it's good for creating spectacle, and I wanted to try that. Like I saw like current gen esports and seeing that like it's 5v5, and I thought, wouldn't it be cool having 100 people on stage? And well, we did that, and it was cool.
Did you see that as a challenge that esports back then was just maximum of 5 versus 5?
Oh, we were trying, like in the early days, trying to figure out, how to do an event, because we thought, well, if we have like a typical bracket where teams are getting knocked out, then you need to bring like 1,000 players to an event, and that's just you can't do that.
No.
So figuring out a way to run an event using Battle Royale, but with a limited player set was a challenge. But I think they've done a pretty good job.
So for me, on the whole Battle Royale thing, I think it's like a thing that happens every 10 years, right? I mean, if I look back, for me, esports personally started with Quake 3, which was for me really the first multiplayer 3D shooter. So that genre kind of got in, and then got elevated by Counter-Strike, and then started to play in the early mid-2000s Dota, which then was a mod, right? Counter-Strike was a mod, Dota was a mod for Warcraft, and then it's pretty similar. Some guy alone who just wanted to create something, right? Built this, and it became the MOBA wave. It took a little bit because you need to get it into not a real game, but to have all the stuff adjusted for it. And then Brandon did the same with the Battle Royale, and pretty much invented it single-handedly. So that is actually a unique moment in time, because again, that doesn't happen once a year, that happens every 10 years or something like this. So this is amazing.
I think it speaks to the power of modding, right?
Yes.
I mean, it's like, you look at like CS, Dota, and Battle Royale and DayZ even, you know, these are all games that came from mods, and they weren't the, you know, AAA or anything like that. It was some guy with a dream, right? And this is a game I want to play, and I think that's very powerful.
And that's so healthy as well, right? Because it's not artificially created top-down, it's exactly the opposite. It's bottom-up, and it's, you know better, but probably a very iterative process. So without a clear goal at the end, a rough goal, but then you get there, and then it changes the gaming world.
It does, and I think that's also the perfect example that esports is actually created out of the community, out of the players themselves, rather than somebody, you know, sitting down with a script and trying to design something to sell it to people. Like we were used to, you know, consume media and entertainment in the past. Like you said, mostly top down, but that also comes with challenges, right? And the interaction with the community, do you see that as like very fruitful, or do you also
it's
see
essential, I think. I mean, like, I always have believed that like you have to build a pyramid, right? You have to start with the community, get a good community base there, and then start worrying about, you know, amateur and semi-pro and pro, and that sort of path to pro, right? And even way back in the Arma 3 days, I was always there for the community, whether it was a streamer wanting to do a Sub Sunday or someone wanting to run an event, or, you know, really trying to give them access that they could run their own battle royale. And we've done that with PUBG as well, the partner program, working with CSL and all these other, that, you know, it has to be from the community. Like, you can come out and go, listen, I'm an esport, but if you don't have a community to back that up, it's never going to work. So we want the community first, and then worry about building an esport on top of that.
And I think if you compare it to traditional sports, there's a misconception. Most sports were built bottom up as well. I mean, you know, football wasn't done that 4 people in a dorm, in a private room said, "Oh, we're going to build now the largest sport in the world and, you know, create FIFA for it." It was the other way around. It started at schools and private playgrounds and was built up and simultaneously all across the world. And some people did great things, some not so good, and the not so good didn't continue. So I usually compare that as, you know, the one is a planned economy from the top down, which you totally streamline, and the other one is the open economy model, which usually brings a lot of innovation, a lot of different colors, and therefore gets much faster development and ultimately is much closer to the consumer, because selling the idea of esports, as you both said, is just a stupid idea. It's creating value for the players, because after all, they play the game which they love, and giving them an additional layer, reason, whatever you call it, to be even more excited about the game. That's what esports is about. And if it's good, then some people will even come and watch it. And then it can actually start to become a business on top of a platform, which is a game.
I think you get that question pretty often as a tournament organizer. How do you decide when to take on a game and when to actually work with a game or developer, publisher?
I can tell you, I've been bugging them since Arma 3 BR. Like, I was talking with Alexander Nair, and I remember being on Skype with him going, look, this can be great. Like, Arma 3 BR could be a great esport, and bugging him, and then coming to Gamescom the first year with H1 and going, look, we have H1, this can be great. And I bugged him, and then finally I got to meet him this year, and it's like, look.
That's so fun. I didn't know that story.
Yeah, no, I've been in contact with Alexander since like Arma 3, and we keep bumping into each other here, and every year it's so like, look, a little bit more, and then this year it's like, finally, we have what looks like an esport.
Totally. I mean, how do we pick? Actually, so it's the opposite story of he just told. We want as a company to try every new game and offer competitions for it. And ultimately have the community, give them an additional layer, an additional platform, additional tournament, which is a little bit more specialized content to start to compete in. And, you know, if that gains a certain traction, then we'll try to do it on a larger scale and with bigger, better, and offline tournaments and all that stuff. So generally, I don't think that we decide anyway what is an esports or not.
It's the community, right?
It's a community, it's the players, but we want to give a pass to esports. So every game that comes out, and you know, where there's a certain base demand or certain base logic, we will start to offer online competitions. And if that gets traction, and then we will try to do more. I think as we're an independent tournament organizer, we have one challenge that we need to refinance anything that goes beyond a certain thing. So, I mean, a big tournament is a big investment, so the market is still very early, and we probably one of the few, maybe the only one who can create these large events on a profitable level without having in-game item success and stuff, right? And that is a long trip, so, but it's still the very early days, and there's going to be more investment from sponsorship and media rights and all these type. We're refinancing our tournaments, so it's just get easier every year. Not 100%, but you know, we're going on that route.
Nice. And speaking of like challenges and financial side. As a developer, you cannot, do everything at once. So you have to build the game step by step, and also decide what kind of features you want to integrate. From your perspective, what is the biggest challenge when you start realizing that it's becoming so popular? People not only play it, but also spectate it, also watch it.
It's just giving, number one, like spectators the tools to be able to follow the action easily. And with Battle Royale, it's not easy. There's moments when there could be 2, 3, 4 teams fighting at the same time, and trying to capture all that. So, we're looking into other real sports, how they manage to do with large player bases, and that's interesting. And but for us, it's working with players to find a good system that they're happy with, because we want to find something that the players feel fair, and they feel, okay, I've had a chance. Look, randomness does play an element, but at the level they play at, it doesn't really. I mean, they've always got the weapons they kind of want. So, I mean, for us, it's a challenge just to try to balance it all and kind of make sure the players are happy, that we're happy with, like, it's sticking to the vision, because most of the players will want it kind of easier for them, and kind of that, and the whole idea behind Battle Royale is that it's meant to challenge them at every corner, that it's not, if you're comfortable, you're playing the wrong game, and you see it, with weather and stuff like this, and we don't want fog and stuff like that. It's like, well, tough, these are challenges. This is why I set up Battle Royale in the first place, was to challenge a player in a unique situation every single time, and some players may not like that, but that's the challenge, and I think that's what makes the game fun, right? So it's trying to balance all that and sort of not piss off the pros too much, because they really invest heavily into the game. So at this stage, because of our player base as well, we really have to be careful about how we change things, but we still have our vision, and balancing that with what the players want it's a tough thing.
I mean, whatever you do, someone will complain, right? Oh, yeah. So it's a kind of an impossible job, and I think for me, from a player perspective as well, because I've always been fairly hardcore, you have a tendency to want to eliminate luck. So, everything that adds an element of luck and where someone can outluck you, you hate as being a very ambitious player. On the other side, that's actually the beauty and the reason why a lot of the games, including, or one of the core reasons maybe, aside from being a fantastic game, why Battle Royale and PUBG is so successful, because actually usually when you play against each other, 50% of the people lose and 50% of the people win. And winning is great, but losing sometimes very depressive.
But I think that's the joy about Battle Royale, is that because of the way you lose, you just want to go back, because it's your fault you lost. It's no one else's fault except you. Either you didn't get the drop on someone, or you out potatoed, or whatever. It's and I think that's the joy. That's why people keep coming back, because you've got no one to blame but yourself. And even if you might be salty and throw your keyboard out the window, it's still you that's at fault, right? Unless it's a game bug, and then it's our fault.
No, I 100% agree with you. I think it even goes further in a way that in Battle Royale, not 50% of the people lose. Just because
our win rate is shockingly low compared to other games. It's like something like 20% win rate or something, while other games have like 60, 70%.
So you don't expect it, right? So you have a different expectation, and therefore, if you're not among the bottom 20, it's an artificial number now, but then you haven't really lost.
Oh no, there was a guy in Arma 3 that we tracked that had played something like a ridiculous, he had played pretty much solidly for a whole month. He had like 24 hours a day for 30 days, and then never won. Like he had something like 800-900 hours in Arma 3B and had never won once. And I'm like, Jesus, like that's dedication. That's like someone really wanting to win, but like my heart goes out to them.
Did you send him a gift?
Did he ever win?
I don't think so. Like I'd say,
Did you send him a gift?
I wanted to, right? A wooden spoon.
And did you ever win a a battle royale match?
That's a question I'm not going to even answer. Of course.
We believe you. Brendan, as a developer, have you ever made any real, big changes to a game, although you didn't want to? Like if the players and the community tell you, no, this is like complete crap.
No, we did it with in some of the early beta tests. We changed the speed, trying to even up looting. So if you pressed F, like just looking at stuff, we were going to add a delay, or we added a delay, and we added a delay for moving it from your inventory with mechanical skill. And adding that delay, players freaked out and they were like, no, this is a mechanical skill. I like opening inventory and quickly getting what I want, and it's something I learn. And we were like, well, fuck. Excuse my French, we didn't realize that, right? I mean, we didn't realize, okay, this is an element we just didn't think about. We were trying to make the game fair, but actually it was fair the way it was because it allowed people to get better at it. And, the players told us, and we reverted the change, and it was great. So, like, that's why I loved, doing beta from such an early stage, and it's just, you need player feedback when it comes to a game like this, and especially a game you have esports hopes for. You have to get the players involved, and you have to get them giving you that feedback you need to make the game more balanced for everyone.
Yeah, and that's a very good, it's a very good point, and a question to both of you, like, where do you recruit hosts, shoutcasters, commentators, just people that help you grow the game, and the same on the tournament side?
Yeah, I mean,
I think it's always, whenever we think about a game, we think about an ecosystem. So it's actually super important that you build that ecosystem. And what usually happens is that there's people from other games, coming in who have a certain experience. So if we would do our first tournament, we will always take some of the known people we have, stability. But at the same time, try to rapidly get endemic people who really come from this game to start training them up. They're probably the sidekick in the beginning. Maybe later are they're the lead commentator and so on and so forth. And the same is actually applicable to anything in terms of broadcast. You will have your senior crew who did 100 events, and obviously have to have them rethink the general thing, but then you start iterate from there. And you can clearly see that the first tournament we did was actually a year ago together.
That's right, yep.
And it was challenging to spectate, let's say it like that.
It's a nice word. Because it's a tough thing. I mean, it's trying to, but again, I love the fact that we've been able to bring people from the community. Like, there are some of the pro teams out there that are Arma 3 players, or Arma 2 players. One of your lead spectators is, he restreamed our broadcast last year and just gave tips on spectating, and now he works with you guys, and I like seeing that. I like seeing these people who are just passionate about Battle Royale and putting out content. And finding casters is easy. You just look to Twitch, you look at these
They have
people.
a platform, right?
You're right. I mean, and you can see that, listen, this guy has a knowledge about the game. He has an interest. He knows what he's talking about. And you get guys like Toffees and those guys that have risen up to really be considered like, okay, they're respected even among the players, which is awesome to see. They give really good sort of analysis.
So what you said is, we have a claim internally: you can train for skills, but you cannot train for attitude. So passion, what you said, is the most important thing, and you just need to risk balance. You can't get a team full of passionate people who have no experience, but you can, combine it and then actually extend it for the people who have more passion. Yeah. And it's such a fast learning thing. So this week, with the charity tournament we're doing with you guys, is the 5th event we're doing, and probably it's from my side the first time where, from a broadcasting point of view, I don't see crying people in our team who so they start to get comfortable. They start to far away from perfect. That's still way out, but in a way that you say, okay, we're getting it and we're getting better. And at one point you might have one step back, but usually it's one forward.
But this is it. This is new, right? No one's done Battle Royale esports before, and we're all learning, and it's a steep curve, and you have the sort of impatience of the internet, I guess would be a nice way to say it, that they want it tomorrow and now. But it takes time. Like, look at CS, look at League. They took 3-4 years to be even considered like an esport. So we know it takes time. That's why we outlined a 5-year plan, because it's like it takes this time to build the foundation, to set up the ecosystems. It's just, and it's all new. So we're going to make mistakes. everyone does, but that's how you learn, right?
Yeah, exactly how you say, and you have the people who constantly train on the game and get better at spectating, commentating, and all these things.
Yep. And you just see the improvement from event to event. It just gets better and better. Like, you know, even our PGI this year, it looked great. It really showed off that, you know, I might have said we're not esports ready, but it really made it look like we're damn close. You know,
Absolutely.
It was a great tournament, and that was kind of my dream. You know, it was like that's what I wanted to see, was this spectacle, and it worked well. So. Yeah, it's given us a good start, I guess. Because this is it. It's just the start. It's like all the stuff we've been doing is experimenting. Even this year, it's still just working, experimenting, seeing what sticks, and that's the way we do it.
So it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Oh, exactly, right? Exactly.
Sometimes it's both, right? Because
Actually, always.
when you compare it with traditional
Marathon
sports,
sprints.
when you compare it with traditional sports, you know, that had so much time to evolve and to grow and to become, you know, professionalish. Now in esports, everything seems to be moving so fast, but still you need the time to develop things, and especially because it's game development, right? And you cannot enforce game development. You cannot just speed it up artificially. It takes a lot of time, and even all the balancing and testing out things takes so much time. So you have on one side this super fast-moving train, and on the other hand, you know, you have to take your time. And you mentioned the 5 years, and I think that's somewhat realistic to, you know, not, you know, overspeed things.
It may happen sooner. Listen, don't get me wrong. But like, I'd love to see it happen sooner, but we have to be realistic. We have to realize that there are systems we need to set up, you know, because we want it to be self-sustaining. We want, you know, if players and teams invest time in our game, that there's some way that they're getting rewarded, right? And these systems take time both to plan, to test, and then to actually roll out. So, yeah, as I said, we want to be realistic about this. As I said, it is a marathon. It takes time, but you know, but we've got a good team.
You do, and you too. Now, esports and PUBG. Is it third-person perspective or first-person perspective? What is your prediction for the future? Or is it both?
Listen, when I first started Battle Royale back in Arma 2, it was first person only. It was, you know, in Arma 3 I introduced third person because of the breathing sounds when you got injured in first person. Just like, and I wouldn't put people through that playing a full round. So that's why third person was introduced. But I mean, I think both are competitive. I mean, I hear this from pros a lot. Oh, one, but there's just two ways of playing the game. You know, if you're playing in third person, or you're playing in first. For me, they're different game modes. There's no better game mode. A lot of the pros will disagree, but I think you know, most FPS esports are first person, and I think that's where a lot of the pros feel the game should go. So you know, as I said, we always listen to them, but you know, personally, I like first person.
Yeah. How about you?
I mean, history will tell you it's most likely first person. But then ultimately the community will decide. It's not a decision I think we have to guide the discussion a bit and help that and monitor it closely. But it's what the players like most.
But you even see after the PGI, you had OMG and Gen G Gold and stuff saying that we like first person. Yeah. You know, we prefer it. Let's play this. So I think, you know, the more and more of the pro teams that play, especially at LAN on first, they see, okay, well this is good. So, you know, again, we listen to the teams, we listen to you guys, and no decisions yet, but you know,
history is sometimes right.
Yeah, we'll have the same discussion again in 2 years.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
It does have impact on where to put your development focus, though, right? Because the balancing for the different modes is...
To an extent. I mean, yes, there is level design considerations when it comes to third person and stuff, but again, like, our maps are built kind of from a combat point of view and not necessarily from a perspective point of view. Like, we try to make them look realistic. So it's the perspective kind of, you know, influences your gameplay, but not so much map design. No. I mean... to an extent, I guess it does, but again, you know, we don't really build the game around esports. You know, we're building the game around making a good game, and if an esport happens to develop that's fantastic. But yeah, I mean, I've never really thought about perspective when it comes to my design team. Will probably tell you completely different, but yeah, it's like they handle the details.
Yeah, no, but I think he said a very important point. A good game is focused around being a good game, and then depending on the game design and the overall architecture, it might be good for esports or not, and this obviously is. And then you build some tools will help the esports, but they don't even have to be, any impact on the core experience. Like, all the spectator tools you guys are providing these days, the APIs that are coming in, right? That is all technical stuff on top of the game, but it has nothing to do with the game experience.
Exactly. Yeah. I love the API work they're doing. Like, it's allowing really some interesting stuff. Like, you see, like Gosha.ai are doing incredible stuff with stats and stuff. So seeing all these, like, third parties come out, just use the tools to create these wonderful sites is, and just in, like, even the event here where we have, like, essentially King of the Hill running in one of the rounds, which is awesome. It's being able to do that. It just shows that for me, Battlegrounds is not just a battle royale game. It's a platform for game modes. It's a platform for fun, right? And in a realistic environment.
Speaking of a very similar topic, what do you think of mobile and the potential success of battle royale for mobile devices?
Oh, I think we have. What, 350 million registered users on mobile now? Yeah, it's...
Everyone in Europe? No.
Ireland.
Who plays Battle Royale on mobile here?
Really? You really should try it. It's
1,
fun.
2, 3, 4.
Even like, my partner who doesn't play games, she plays BR. She stayed up till 4 o'clock in the morning trying to get a kill in her first time. But no, I got asked a lot. I was at Games First in Helsinki, and I was asked a lot about, especially mobile esports and stuff like that. And, I think we're going to see more and more of that. Like, I think just esports in general, I think if it's competitive, if people can show they're better than other people on it, it stands a chance to be an esport, right? It's... Like, I think eventually some of them won't even be esports anymore. They'll just be sports, right? It'll move in that sort of direction. But from a mobile point of view, I love what they've done. I never thought I'd play a shooter on my phone, and I play a shooter on my phone. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
From a tournament organizer perspective, how important is mobile?
It's still secondary, very clearly, right? It's more media consumption, but it's dramatically changing. So, we've been speaking about that internally probably since 2009 or something like that, 2008, right? 2007 was the first iPhone, and it took us to understand an app store and stuff and games coming onto it. But ever since then, we've been talking about it. And, one thing by founding ESL that I learned is that timing is actually, a beast. And we tend to think that time goes much faster and that things going to happen much faster. It's still fascinating that there's traditional TV companies out there and stuff, right? So that is always slower. But I feel that we're on this inflection point for mobile esports, that the games get good enough, right? It's ultimately, again, it's how good the games are. And they are there or very close to be there. And then it's a very accessible open platform. It will potentially look a bit different than traditional esports.
Sure.
So in terms of, we have this, grand vision is the wrong word, but I can totally see 1,000 people tournament actually there, right? With these people being live there, so you can actually do things you can't do on PC or console, which is actually exciting. And the whole spectator experience will be a little bit, challenging, at least in the beginning. Like I said, in the Battle Royale, and there are some things to learn. But genuinely speaking, it's any platform that has relevance and scale will be relevant for esports. And mobile is the largest gaming platform in the world.
No, it really is. I was in Korea for 2 years. Everyone, their mother and grandmother are on their phone playing games. So, there's a market there. I can't see it not happening.
Yeah, I fully agree. There's no way it's not going to happen. The only way is how fast and how, and that's again a little bit where our role comes in. We think about how we can add value there, how we can make it easier on let's say the tournament operations side, how we can make it easier in terms of there needs to be different things in terms of you watch it, right? The letters needs to be bigger, right? Because the screen is smaller. There's some of these very simplistic things, and we want to create these amazing events which give you this brainwash moments, right? Where you
forget everything else.
Where you forget everything else. That will be more mass participatory in mobile, and I'm super excited about it. I just hope we get it right, and obviously faster than ever.
Well, 2 years ago, everyone was talking about VR and about how VR can change not only gaming but also become important esports. And probably Battle Royale would be like a perfect showcase for VR by the type of game and the type you interact with other players.
I think so. I mean, I saw that demo for Dota with the VR where you could look at the thing, and I just fell in love. I was like, this is just perfect. You even see it now with rugby games where they have like the camera on the ref here, so he gets right into the action. So I think it could be used very well for spectating. Just jump in the game, put on your headset, and then you can just watch and fly around the map like Superman basically and see whatever you want to see. And it gives more power to the spectator, right? I mean, I think it could be very interesting for spectating.
From your perspective, will we see more like different spectator modes in the future, where you have like this guided, this hosted spectator mode? And will we also see more like free roaming spectator modes, where you basically decide what you want to see yourself and why or why not?
Not to cut you off, but we did that already with, I think it was PGI, right? Yeah. Where we had individual streams, so you could watch the team you wanted, and they had a spectator team on that team, so you could just spectate what you wanted and like a la carte basically. And I think you will see more of that. I think the tech is getting there, right? That it's going to be more. You can watch. You can still hear the spectators, but what you want to watch is up to you. And then we can never be accused of camera tours again.
It's a big advantage. No, I mean generally I fully agree. And we've been trying with a lot of different games and a lot of different things like that, and technology advances dramatically and makes it a much better experience. Saying that though, I still believe that the majority, at least for the upcoming generations, and maybe there's going to be a shift in a more dramatic shift than I'm aware of in how people consume the content. But for the time being, for the next 5 years, 10 years, people will still want to follow that one mainstream. Because again, it's a little bit of a social aspect as well.
For sure. Oh, yeah.
We're doing this together. We're 5,000 people in the YouTube or Twitch chat. They all have the same perspective. They're all experiencing the same thing. So that will continue to dominate. But that doesn't mean that the other stuff is not great, because there's different target groups, there's different fans.
Because I don't think the majority of people want to watch it a la carte. I think they want to be guided, because a lot of them are coming in maybe watching it for the first time and I don't know what's going on. It's why I don't watch Dota, because I have no clue what's going on. Even watching the noob streams, I'm still like, okay. But so I think a lot of people do need that guided. It's more traditional, and people are comfortable with that, right? As you said, it's a shared experience.
And also, it's very tough actually from a production point of view to make a decision what to show and where the actual action is. And switching yourself, I think, between different perspectives can be very difficult, because the risk that you miss some things, some real action, is much higher than letting professionals do it, right?
For sure.
The point is, there's trained professionals who do the spectating. And if they do a fantastic job, then the average show will probably not do a better job.
I mean, given the option to follow your favorite team and stuff like that, it's good for Battle Royale, because people just want to see how they do, and then they don't really care about other teams, right? So it kind of works with us that you can give a little bit more, but for the more traditional esports, I guess having that directed thing, it just works really well, and it works for Battle Royale as well. It's I don't think I want to knock that at all. It's it's giving more options to spectators, because it is so hard to capture all the action.
And I think agree that if anything like that is successful, then it's probably follow your team. And if you hear the team communications, which has different issues, because players sometimes don't love that too much, but if you have that shared viewing experience one level deeper with the team of your choice, that is something that's attractive enough to be competing with the mainstream.
Oh, I love that. I love that idea of being with the team and hearing their comms and stuff, because that's especially for Battle Royale, it's a learning experience for all these up and coming pros that want to know, okay, well, how do they handle things, and how do they? And yes, the teams may not like it, but it's a public event, right? I mean, teams don't like a lot of things.
Teams, right? It's another challenge, I think, moving to Battle Royale. So teams were just like you described in the beginning, we're used to this typical 5 versus 5 setup. Now, how difficult is it to to win teams, to play in professional leagues versus doing another MOBA, which we don't want to discuss here, but it's a different setup, it's a different play style, everything is different.
Oh yeah, and I mean, even it comes down to, there was one team in Turkey that came to play at the CIS finals, and they have really bad computers, and they were playing at like 15, 20 FPS, and they came to play on LAN on 100 plus FPS, and they were hiding in bushes because they didn't know how to play. They were scared how smooth it was, but they still came in third position or something like that. But these challenges that it's tough to manage, but with the help of you guys and the team we have, it's getting easier.
Yeah, plus it's something that evens itself off over time, right? So now the Turkish team has played in on a proper PC, and maybe did they win some prize money?
I think they did actually. Yeah.
So now maybe they have now a new PC. So that's a little bit that has been there before in other games. And I mean, if you historically look, I remember when I had my first Pentium 90 and playing Quake on it, and I thought, I'll never need new hardware for that game. And then I had the next one, and it was so much smoother, and the next one was so much smoother, and people underestimate there.
Oh yeah, I remember I played Viet Cong years ago, and I thought this was the closest a civilian could get to being in NAM, right? I was convinced, and now I look at it, and I'm like, how the hell did I get this? God, I thought it was like this big, but yeah, that off topic, but
yeah. If you had a fast forward button and could press a button 5 years from now, what's the one thing or the two things that you would love to see in esports?
A holiday? It's an esport.
No, that's reverse. That's going back in time.
I just want to see, especially for talking from BR, it's I just want to see it strengthened. I want to see some great BRs happen, whether that's us or other ones. I want to see Battle Royale as a great esport. That's always been my dream, But I think, as I said, we're going to see, the IOC said, no, not this time, to esports and stuff, and I understand that. As I said, I think esports in general, even though some of them are 15 years old now, we're still very young, Overwatch are now making moves into, trying to support the player, and providing these ecosystems that players can, and we want to do the same, So we need to get those sorted first before we really think about, going pro, right, and lifting ourselves out of esports, I guess.
A lot of work ahead.
There really, I mean, and even you move from from the niche gaming audience into something like ESPN or stuff like that, and we've seen this with the international and stuff like that, and the general public kind of go, what the hell is this? It's a kid's game, or they don't understand what it is, and you still have that problem. I think Battle Royale and PUBG in Pacific has a chance to leap that, because we're very understandable. It doesn't look like a kid's game. It looks like this guy has to survive, and I think that can help us make a leap out of just being a traditional esport to maybe even just being a sport, right? I mean, it could be fun.
Your 5-year dream?
My 5-year dream. I mean, there's plenty of those, but I think again, it's most important are actually the players themselves. So we've seen once the story of this kid from Pakistan who won the international, and I think for me, it's really what I'd love to see in PUBG is that people from all over the world have the chance to step out into a shining light and become from zero to hero, so to speak.
And we've seen this already, so many of the community have been risen up, and I love that. I love that it's not just one or two, we're bringing a whole community with us. And it's one of the best things I've been able to do with this game, or we've been able to do. It's wonderful.
Yeah, so that is really what it's about.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Let's do a time check, because the clock here is not running. How are we doing in time?
Oh, we've got 20 minutes, I think.
What do you know?
Yeah.
I'm just looking at my watch.
We did 40
You got to
minutes.
watch.
He has two. He even has 2 watches. So
Do we have the possibility to do a Q&A session with the audience? Do we have a microphone?
There's not many of you, so
So maybe we get a lively discussion with the audience. Any questions to Brandon or Ralph? Still over there.
Hey.
Hi.
So just a quick question. Esports is still very young, but there have been games out for 20 years. Dota, StarCraft, CSGO, whatever. And BR is still very young and has already like really big events. Do you think people are expecting too much too quick? Is it like too much of a challenge?
That's the internet in general, right? People just want things done tomorrow, and like, but it takes time, and we're not afraid to shy away from that. You know, it's like, listen, we've said it takes a 5-year plan here. You know, that it's not something that's going to happen overnight. So, yeah, I mean, we are very young, but there's a lot of work to do and a lot to learn.
As a small follow-up, is your statement "we are not esports ready" a defense against it? Or?
No, it's not a defense. It's like, as I said, like we never came out and said we're an esport. It was everyone in the public kind of went, oh, esports ready as a meme. And I just kind of addressed that. I was like, listen, you know, like we want to be esports ready and we have a very good plan. And PGI kind of showed us off as being damn close. So, you know, yes, I said that more to own a meme than anything else. But really, you know, we have a team that are focused on this and give us some time. And I think, I said, like PGI made us look esports ready, right? I mean, it really, I was so happy with how that pulled off. It's a credit to the team. Like you know, I put my hands up. I had very little to do with like the team that made that, and they did an amazing job. It's a credit to them.
Yeah, I was very surprised on that.
I think a lot of people were, and that's a great thing, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
it's the greatest.
I get a lot that people. I don't know why, but you see it online a lot where people just want things to fail, right? I mean, it's like something new gets announced, and it's like, oh, we hope it dies. And it's like, you know, even when we came out, it was like, oh, you're going to kill H1 and you're going to do this. And it's like, I helped with H1. I have friends that developed there. I have friends in the industry. Why the hell would I want someone else's game to die? I don't understand it. I understand it, yes, of course. But still, I struggle to get it.
I think it's very often just very small but very vocal people and groups that, you know, affect like a whole community.
I mean, it's...
And for some reason, sometimes, you know, that opinion spreads and people don't even think about, you know...
Oh, no, there's bandwagoning all over the place. I get to see it a lot. Like, I still read things about me that have no basis in reality, but it's still spread, you know, that it's like, the things I've done, if you could list them out, I'm like, right, okay.
You learn about yourself.
Yeah. Huh? You learn wonderful things about yourself, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing with internet feedback, right? To some extent, you actually want to listen and want to take it seriously and want to address it. On the other side, you know, I hope we all know that it's most of the time an exaggerated, very emotional feedback. So, you know, there's a lot of times truth to it, but let's not take every word for the words written.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think that...
Because not as many people hate you if you do something as they write.
No, but I mean, I always look at it like we're getting a reaction. At least people are passionate enough to leave a reaction. So, you know, if I'm giving good feedback, I'll leave it back. If someone tells me just fix the game, that's useless to me. You know, it's like, you know, fix the game
fast.
Or this bit, yeah, exactly. Tell me what's bloody broken about the game. You know, it's like, don't just say fix the game, because that means nothing. You know, that can't help. I can tell an engineer fix the game, and he'll just look at me the same, going, yes, fix what?
More questions? Over here.
First of all, thanks for the amazing talk. My question is, especially in Battle Royale, when it comes to eSport and when there are prizes to win, it's about a lot of money. How can you avoid that spectating a Battle Royale match gets boring because people just want to win and start to camp? So it happens in Fortnite Battle Royale. People just lay on the ground and did just nothing, and the viewer was bored.
But you see, I mean, again, I reference the PGI. You got to see when you have global competitions that it's not about camping. Yes, there's some camping there, but our game in general is, yeah, you can camp, of course, and it's a strategy I recommend for winning because, you know, it's, but again, the action in general, like you saw 4 AM just go and dominate, like they didn't care about camping, they found players and they went after them. And you see this, that, yes, maybe in the West, this is kind of like a done thing where they're more concerned about, you know, winning money or something like this, but I think worldwide, it's not so much about camping. And I think, but even the Battle Royale game, I mean, I don't want it to be all action all the time. I think it's boring. You know, if it's just action after action, it gets tiring to watch, I think. And, you know, having these downtimes that the casters can talk about the teams or how they got here, that's a valuable thing, I think, to have in any sport. It's like our chairman once said, like, he sees Battle Royale like a football. that 90% of games are kind of boring. Like, there's not much going on, but it's those 10% that have amazing things that happen in them that make you come back and watch more, right? And I think that's what Battle Royale kind of captures, is that feeling, you know, is that there can be these amazing things, but most of the time it will be a little bit more slower paced. But I think that's okay. I don't want all action all the time.
I mean, to add on to that, if the football stuff was going through my head as well. I mean, first, I think they fixed it, right? That's why the map is shrinking, right? If that wouldn't be the case, then we were in trouble, but that is part of what he invented. I think point number two, if you look at football, right, in the 80s and 90s, people would say, oh, football is dead, we need to change it because it was all defensive. And then out of the community, out of the players and teams, you know, Barcelona came up and invented tiki-taki and had a super aggressive play style, and then someone else invented something that is more successful, which was super offensive. And Jürgen Klopp now with Liverpool, who plays the craziest football you can ever think about, comes into the Champions League final. So that actually is most of the time, unless the system is not broken, which again, I think the shrinking map has done, and maybe, you know, Brandon comes up and lets it shrink a little bit faster in 6 months or not. That depends a little bit probably on your data and the feedback, but the general system is there, and generally playing defensive or camping should be part of the game. I fully agree.
It's a survival game, right?
As long as it's not the only strategy you can win with.
No, and the moving zone constantly makes sure that you're not always camping. Like, yeah, you can camp, but you know, you're seeing a development of play styles. Like right now, it's such a new sport, or a new esport, or a new game, that there hasn't been so many different play styles. But I think the PGI showed off that, look at the Eastern teams, they play super aggressive. They knock one of you, they're after your team. Whereas the Western teams don't do that, you know? Like, they're much more defensive. And you'll see this, that maybe now the Western teams will look at the Eastern play style and go, well, this kind of works because it puts the team on the back foot, right? And so I think we're going to see this kind of the play styles develop. That yes, right now there tends to be a bit of camping because I think people are unsure about how to play.
Yeah, they have no better strategy.
Yeah, and even
so it's
coaches,
your job to get any better one.
Yeah, and there's no coaches that have strategy, right? I mean, the coaches, there's no one that has been playing Battle Royale for so long. So yeah, give it time.
Yeah, I'd start with camping as well.
Yeah. Oh no, I told the Viva La Dirt guys.
But he doesn't know how to use a mouse. So
I told the Viva La Dirt guys at the PGI when they were playing in the charity thing that, like, they were asking me for tips, and I said, guys, you should camp, you know, and they came in third place. So, you know, it's not advocating camping, but
but it's part of the game.
It is a survival game.
You'll find that quote in your list of who you are on the internet.
Yeah, he loves camping, but I make no bones about that. It's how I play. I'm find a bush, love the bush.
Yeah. And we would hear the same complaint about Counter-Strike, and 20 years later, it's still there.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. Yeah. More questions? Over here.
10 minutes.
Brandon, you said the thing you like about Battle Royale is that it creates individual situations every game, which is based on RNG. But every time I read about eSports, it says RNG is really, really bad for eSports. So is that wrong, or isn't that a really big problem?
No. I mean, I always point Hearthstone. That's essentially RNG, right? But with Battle Royale, okay, if you want a hot drop at school or pachinki, yeah, you're going to have a bad time. RNG is going to play a big factor because you have 20 people trying to find the 5 weapons that are there, right? Or the 10 weapons. So at a casual level on live servers, yeah, RNG plays a factor, especially if you're hot dropping. But at the professional level that we see at the events, they know how to play that early game, right? That early game, to me, it's as I said, I got inspired by DayZ and Survivor games, and that was the start. You looted, and then you fought at the end. And the pro teams kind of play like that. They get away from players. They don't worry about RNG because they have time to loot and find the weapons they need. So at the pro level, I don't think RNG plays that much of a factor because of the way the teams play. And if you play that way, I think you'll never really worry about RNG apart from maybe a water circle.
Excellent. I think we can close the session here.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Brendan, Ralph.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for coming.